תל אביב 360, ערוץ הפודקאסטים של אוניברסיטת תל אביב.
קומיקאים בקמפוס, תוכניתו של דוקטור אמיר טל.
Welcome to another episode of Comedians in Campus. I'm Amir.
I'm Shai Fisher.
And today we're both from Tel Aviv University, and today we have another remote conversation with Raanan Hershberg in...
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. In New York?
Yeah, New York, Astoria, yeah.
Nice.
It's nice to be with Israelis. They're the only ones who know how to pronounce my name correctly. So.
Yeah, let's address the Israeli in the room. Raanan is an Israeli name.
Yeah, right, exactly. And no one else can pronounce. No one else can do that guttural sound. I don't even know how to pronounce my name correctly.
Yeah, I have my kid. I named him Itamar, and I thought it's a legit name, but it starts with an I. And then in the U.S., everybody called him Itamar, as if he's like an Apple product. So it's not, it's not as international as we think. So you have family in Israel? Like you have
a little. I'm not. I'm not Israeli. My parents just gave me Israeli name. I guess they just liked it. But I have some family in Israel. A lot of them have passed away over the. I kind of had some older relatives, but I have a couple relatives still in Israel. Yeah.
Cool.
And I've only been to Israel twice. I went for this like summer camp, 2 months thing, and then I went a couple years ago, doing comedy at is it called the Tel Aviv Theater? Is that a name for the theater there? Or
there's a couple.
I performed. I thought maybe it wasn't called just the Tel Aviv Theater. I performed at some theater there. It was really fun.
Yeah, cool. Oh man, can't believe I missed that. Look it up. That's cool. That's like, two times more than most people. Sorry?
Yeah, exactly. But that was the last time.
Yeah, so Raanan is I wrote fresh yet seasoned comedian. Now I realize that Raanan is literally fresh in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you not realize that when you wrote that?
No, I haven't. No, that's how.
Oh, wow, fresh. Yeah.
That's how witty. Yeah. So he's a very seasoned comedian, 15 years in the scene, more or less. A master of
maybe more. Yeah.
More.
I lost count. I keep saying 15, but I lost count. Started just saying 15, 2 or 3 years ago. So it's probably more at that point.
So it's about 15, according to my math. Yeah. So he's a master of all sorts of deprecating humor, and with 3 full specials out in YouTube, very widely viewed. The latest of which, called Brave, came out this year, and it's terrific.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. They're all great. Brave, go see it. So thanks very much, Raanan, for being here, for coming here.
Of course, yeah. I was intrigued by the idea of the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. So the idea is we're cognitive neuroscientists at Tel Aviv University. We study humor. We're very interested in humor in all aspects of it. And our idea was to speak with comedians and try to distill some of their insights about comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, because we know from the scientific perspective, but obviously you guys know a lot just from being able to do it very well. So you can't have theory of music without speaking to musicians.
Right.
We feel.
By the way, I'm wearing pajama pants. I thought they wouldn't be in the camera, but I can see them. I feel bad now.
No, we can't.
We couldn't.
Okay, great.
But now we can't not think of it. Yeah.
I feel like it'd be visually very disrespectful if I was just in pajama pants. But I was worried that my computer is on the table. All right, good. I didn't have to put that up there.
No, that's great.
I'm glad I brought it up, though. I'm glad it's out there. I would have been wondering about it. I would have been all wondering if I'm, what the hell is he doing with the pajama pants, So anyway.
Now the viewers are going to guess exactly how do they look like. They have little hearts or whatever.
Mickey Mouse. Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, I was shooting a sketch called "The One Jew Who Didn't Make It Onto Schindler's List." It was like this sketch where like it was me and Joe List. You know Joe List, comedian,
Yeah.
very funny comedian.
Yeah.
He it was a sketch where it was showing like Schindler, they make the list, and they're like, the Ben Kingsley character says a name, and Schindler's like, not that guy. And then it's about this guy who's like, didn't make the list, this Jew who just didn't like. And I played him, and we got pajama outfits to play the concentration camp scene where I'm like bitching about not being on the list. And now I just wear those pajama pants to bed.
So
anyway.
it's stripes.
Yeah, it's stripes.
It's stripes. yeah.
Long way of saying it's stripes. But yeah, so.
Yeah. So we always start like with a very basic and very difficult question. So, feel comfortable. But have you ever thought about like humor generally? Do you have thoughts about that? What it is that you do?
Yeah. I have thoughts. I mean, yeah, I think about it. I mean, I guess there's always this like, there's always this idea that you don't want to think too much about it or you'll kill the thing. I don't think that will happen exactly, but I mean, yeah, I do think about it. Like, yeah, like what's so? Like just kind of like the nature of it, or like it's such a vague question.
It is.
Get more
How does it work, do you think?
That's the question we have, yeah.
How do you think it works? Is there like a process you try to induce on the crowd to make
So I think, there's two things. I think when you first start, you learn this basic thing that eventually I think you kind of have to try. Your goal is to try to kind of break free from this eventually. But I think this basic thing is you say something on stage, it gets a laugh, and then you say it just like that every time, and it keeps on getting a laugh. But then eventually you learn that saying it the same way might get a laugh, but it's not really authentic, So you try to like, and you fail a lot at this, but you try to, instead of saying it exactly that way, you try to just bring up the emotion you had when you first wrote the joke, Because when you first said it on stage, you weren't thinking, I'll say it exactly like this and I'll get a laugh. You're just thinking, let me bring this issue up and maybe it's funny. And then in your head, you cement this like, oh, I'll say it with this kind of emphasis on this word and I'll get a laugh. And then that becomes very rote. So you have to fight against that.
Yeah.
I guess for the first couple of years, you're just learning how to repeat the shit that gets a laugh. But then eventually, maybe the next level of comedy is learning that it's actually more like acting, where you want to like, you don't need to say it the exact same way. You just want to capture the emotion again,
Yeah.
of joke was,
Yeah. So there's something, it has to be like, there's something always like an emphasis on being authentic as a stand-up comedian or as a comedian in general. Like
Not for everyone, but for my type of comedy. I get there's different types of comedy. I would say comedy can be broken down into two different types of comedy, and now there's huge overlaps between the two. So this is not like only every comic is either one or the other. Many comics are a mix of the two, but to me, there's two types of comedy. There is comedians who it's very clear they're telling a joke, like that's the point. That I'm telling a joke right now, and comedians who act like they're not telling a joke.
Right.
So you have people telling a joke that's like, Mitch Hedberg, a joke's coming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have Louis C.K. or Bill Burr on the other side. Bill Burr looks like he's just ranting,
Yeah.
People call that like ranting comedians, but what it really is, I think fundamentally is you're either hiding the fact that you're trying to tell a joke or you're not hiding the fact that you're trying to tell a joke.
Right.
And those are kind of the two different approaches. And, there's huge overlaps between the two. But,
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
my type of comedy, I guess, is for the most part looking like I'm not trying to tell a joke.
Yeah.
Just trying to, caught in the emotion of it,
Yeah.
So for that type of comedy, I think it is better to just be in the emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the kind of comedy where you're like telling a joke, like can be more scripted, you know?
Yeah.
Like Seinfeld is someone who's scripted. He works on every, and there's a craft to that too, because there's a precision. Like Seinfeld makes sure every word is correct, you know?
Yeah.
But you're not watching Seinfeld to capture the emotion of, you know, how Pop-Tarts or whatever the hell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a detachment there and a scriptedness. And so for his perspective, he would work maybe on, I got to get this line right here. I got to get this word here. I'll emphasize this part. And then he'd just do it the same way each time.
Yeah.
I come from the other school that I've created in my head, these terms, but it's like, no, I don't want to have the word right the same way. It's the best when I'm free to almost say it differently while still capturing the emotion, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Well, like we heard, like doing this, I think it came up like once or twice that comedians always need to say like, this happened last week. Or this happened recently. Like you can't say this happened 10 years ago. Yeah. Funny thing happened this morning. It couldn't be like a funny thing happened when I was 12. Well, it can be, but like it needs to feel like recent and like relevant and like natural in a way.
Yeah, which is a way to try to trick yourself and the audience into feeling like it's a raw thing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But if it happened when you were 4, if you're like, this happened when I was like 8, you're not going to get mad about it. You're not going to get worked up about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and the audience knows that. But if it happened a week ago, you can kind of like, it's like a type of acting, you know?
Yeah. So it's suspense of disbelief on the part of the audience for
comedy or that type of comedy where you're hiding the comedy. It's a constant state of suspension of disbelief. The suspension of disbelief begins at the premise. Every premise, the disbelief is that you're not going to tell a joke.
Yeah.
And then the punchline reveals you did tell a joke. And then it starts over with the next line, the next joke. We have to once again create the suspension of disbelief that you're not about to tell a joke. Because obviously, if you're watching a comic, you're like, well, everything's just going to be a premise and then a joke. Yeah. It's going to get boring. So the audience the comedian has to like essentially trick the audience into like forgetting that.
Yeah.
Each, you know? I had this bit I did a while ago. It was I'm really into. I love this comic, Stewart Lee. Do you know Stewart Lee?
Oh yeah, the British guy.
British guy, and especially if you're studying comedy, he's definitely like the one guy you really want to look at because his comedy is kind of the deconstruction of comedy, you know. And what he does, which I think is so brilliant, is he's very honest to the audience that these are all tricks, and he just lets them know, like, I'm gonna do these tricks right now to make, you know. And what it does is actually create a level of intimacy. Even though it's postmodern, it creates this interesting level of intimacy where he's like he's being transparent, you know?
Yeah.
But I did a bit a while ago, years ago. It was in the vein of that a little, where I talked about how this was like maybe on my first special or album or whatever. I talked about how I wish I had a family so I could do jokes about them. I don't have like a lot of, it's hard to develop a lot of material just being like a single guy. So I'm like, well, it also works successfully, like with careers, you know, like it helped. So many comics did so much better once they had family material.
Really?
And then I was like, but you know what, fuck it. If I want to do family material, I'll just do family material. So I said to the audience, I just started saying I have a wife and kid, even though they just knew I made that up. And then I started doing bits about the wife and kid. But the audience knew that I had made it up the whole time. But what's interesting is I would still get laughs because I could see the audience kind of forgetting that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the process of art in general, or movies or stand, or you're kind of constantly like forgetting that you're watching something fake. Yeah. And then of course your mind remembers, but you do the job of those artists to kind of make you forget that over and over again, you know?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I even remember like we talked about it like that you sometimes play with, like you say, everything else I say is a lie, but this is true. Like you, before a bit, right? You had that a bunch of times.
I say that because I think that's so funny that comedians are always like, this totally happened, because you're just revealing that everything else is a lie.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, this is also a lie, but like you're just trying to like really press them on that. I've actually tried to not say like I swear to God as much and all that shit. Like I try not to say it as much because it's like revealing like it's revealing something the audience isn't. The audience is, you know, it's just kind of revealing that it's all a lie. But yeah, I say that line to make fun of. Yeah, like that concept, like why, if you're telling the truth all the time, why would you have to be like, this really happened, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You even have a joke about
You
it.
have like the I think it's late in the Brave special where they take it a step further, like when you try to like you're about to tell a story and there's a girl Jennifer and then you're like, wait, then you remind the audience that she's made up, but you still like linger on details or
right. That was kind of like a version of my old Family bit, where I was trying to like, I think it's funny to let the audience, I think it's interesting to let the audience know something is not real. And then watch them just still play into this thing where you're like, all right, we're back to just thinking this is real. Like it just, we instinctually, you know, our brains instinctually, you know, I guess start to fall under the illusion that it's real on some level, you know?
Yeah. There is this theory, like in psychology, I think. I know I'm now in the people believe anything I say on this, so I need to give a caveat. I'm not sure this is true, but I heard once that like lies are like unnatural. Like if you closely follow like bodily movements and like people tell the truth. So that's why poker face is hard. Like your instinct is to tell the truth. People believe we're a social animal, and then being deceptive, being lying or saying something that isn't true or not believing, that's like, it takes effort. So yeah, I think
so you're going against this. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, when you're telling the truth, there's nothing you have to tell your body. You're not having to act. You're not. There's a line in a play, or Glenn Ross, like, always tell the truth. It's the easiest thing to remember, you know? So it's like a natural.
Right. I just read like, if you don't lie, you don't need to remember anything. You don't need memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So some people can lie very naturally. I guess the caveat to that idea is our susceptibility to self-deception, in which we can just convince ourselves something is true, and then the lie becomes quite natural again, you know? Nietzsche has this line. God, I don't want to say it wrong, but it's such a great line about like how you do something in the past and you feel like the shame about it, but eventually, like, God, what is the line? Eventually, I have to look it up. I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher it. I love this line so much, and it gets to the heart of, I mean, like memory and hold on, let me see the line. Nietzsche, memory yields.
Interesting.
All right, memory says I did that. Pride replies, I could not have done that because it was something shameful, right? Eventually, memory yields to pride. so eventually you just rewrite it to a place where you're not shameful about it.
Yeah, memory is here to serve.
Neuroscience, I feel like he's got to be the best.
Nietzsche
for that.
Yeah. I don't know if he's like, I know he's very influential in psychology. So, yeah, cognitive neuroscience. I'm trying to think of like something concrete.
He's just always psychologically very insightful.
Yeah. I did my bachelor's in like philosophy, and he was my favorite. And I heard there's like a quote from there's a quote from a lecturer saying, if they're bored, talk about sex. If they're still not like paying attention, talk about Nietzsche. Like he's the most
That's great. Yeah. Wrongly interpreted as anti-Semitic.
That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He broke off from Wagner because of Wagner's, nationalism and anti-Semitism. Yeah, they were good friends, and then their friendship ended because, he was sick of Wagner's nationalism because Nietzsche hated that, but also his anti-Semitism. Yeah, Nietzsche's sister, wrongfully interpreted him as anti-Semitic to the Nazis. So the Nazis ended up you know, misunderstanding him through his sister and then, you know, appropriating it for their, you know, worldview, but wrongly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard too. Yeah. I don't know
too.
a lot about it. Yeah. His sister, was married to. Yeah. But I like him. We wanted to talk to you about like moral aspects of humor. We think it's really interesting. Like this is slightly more sociological maybe, but you do a lot of like self-deprecating jokes and like not only self but like group deprecating. Like you make fun a lot about Jews, about liberals, about like your own group, which is cool. We talked to a bunch of comedians about this, including Gus, who I know you're friends with, Gus Tate, which was on and was great. So for instance, like you joke about like Jews quite a bit, about like Mary's Jesus' mom being Jewish, and like if she'd be like a Jewish mom on the cross just screaming at him. And I love your jokes. You joke about liberals, about like how liberals would be useless in zombie attacks, or or I'm just butchering a bunch of your jokes.
It's actually that's really a bit making fun of conservatives. They just don't realize it.
Because it's like you're preparing for like something that would never happen.
I mean, I guess I'm making fun of liberals, but really,
yeah,
it's really just a way for me to make fun of conservatives without them realizing.
Yeah, like you try. I guess what you mean is that if you also make fun of liberals, you have like a free pass. Because you do both sides, right?
Audiences, especially maybe in the East Coast or the LA, but audiences in the rest of America, they don't want you to be politically like leaning towards one party. You can make fun of everyone, but there's a certain tension if you just start making fun of one side too much. But if you just go, I hate everyone, they all suck, people cheer, you know, because that's just like the cliche. They all suck, you know?
Yeah.
I personally think the Republicans suck so much more that I don't even know if I can call the Democrat. Like, it's not even two different worlds, but you can't like really say that or you'll lose people. There's this tension, you know? So like, you kind of have to hide it under this veneer. But if you listen closely to the bit, there is no zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
And there isn't going to be a zombie apocalypse. So I'm really just making fun of them. I'm just saying, you'd be good in this thing that wouldn't happen.
Right.
As of now, you just love guns and hates outsiders, you know? I'm literally calling them racist to their face. And they're thinking,
You see?
That's like, you know, obviously I'm making fun of liberals too, like the whole zombies alive impaired thing, whatever, you know, which is more the hack part of that bit.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it is funny. Like there is no zombie apocalypse. There will be no zombie apocalypse because zombies aren't real. So I'm just saying you're great in a situation that isn't real.
You're a bunch of paranoids. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
they're too dumb to realize it. So that's the joke.
Yeah. There's also the great bit about like that you're being mugged in New York. And you're very happy.
That is making fun of it.
Yeah.
That's a fun bit.
Yeah.
So some people think you should only, like, some comedians are like try to only tell true stuff. I don't. I'll make up anything. Yeah. To me, the problem isn't making. I mean, there has to be a kernel of truth, but that truth can be like I've never been mugged ever, but the kernel of truth is just that, like, I guess if I was mugged, I'd be relieved if it was a white guy, you know?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have the guilt. So like, that's the kernel of truth for that. Now, most of the bits have some real, like, factual stuff that I then break off. But to me, I don't care if it's real or not. My issue is, except unless you're telling a story that's so detailed, where you're like, it feels so true. You're like, if that's all a lie, that's a little weird. You know what I mean? Like, my liberal bit is pretty spare. You know, I'm not like, my mug bit. I'm not like telling this detailed story, you know?
Yeah.
But like, for me, it's not whether it's true or not. It's whether it feels true or not.
Yeah.
So you can have a bit that actually happened, but if it feels fake, that doesn't work to the audience. They're not believing the premise, you know? So
Yeah.
that's the important thing. They just believe the premise, you know?
I feel like, and this is my like spin on the theory. I feel like when people laugh at something, that means there is a bit of truth to it. Like if someone laughs, they're admitting that that's true to a certain extent. Like you can't make someone laugh at something they completely disagree with.
Very true. I mean, this society like represses you, and then the laugh is this release of tension where you're like kind of like owning up to something that you might be like ashamed to own up to normally in normal society. That's why it's always dark. You wanted to have like Louis. I worked for Louis C.K. Open for him, and he always wanted the audience pitch black, and the reason is because he says horrible shit, and the audience doesn't want to have people see that they're laughing. So it's like put it in pitch black. It allows you to laugh. So there is this. I feel like they did. I forget what the day is, but there was some day they would do in ancient Greece, which was the day of where like you go to the temple and everyone could be like really profane and get it out of their system. I don't know. I vaguely remember. Yeah. That's what comedy is. It's a day to get out.
Yeah.
The saneness that you can't have in regular life, you know, and you have to get it out. That being said, you still need good jokes to get it out.
Yeah.
This whole concept of the anti-woke comic, I hate it because they say an anti-woke comic is like someone who's like, he just says what we're all thinking. Well, then you're not good at comedy. Because if we're all thinking it, then we could just go on stage and say it. Comedians should be saying shit that we're not all thinking, or at least we get it out in a way. You can't just go up there and be like, I hate fat chicks, and you know what I mean? Like you can't just like. To me, that's also posturing because that's not like really getting it out. That's just like this societal meanness, you know?
Yeah.
So it does take art and like craftsmanship and like a good joke to get it out. You can't just go up there and just say something mean. Now, you can do a joke that brings out something you're ashamed about to laugh at, but it needs the cleverness of the joke to get it out and to make people feel comfortable laughing at it. You know, something Louis does and Bill Burr does is they're not anti-woke comedians. They know how to soften the blow. They know how to get the audience to laugh at something horrible, but put stuff in the joke that allows it to be okay.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a big difference between a lot of anti-woke comics who just go up there and just say something that your uncle would say at fucking, at Thanksgiving, you know, which is just bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
That's just a shallow type of comedy where the audience goes, I can't say that at work, but Richie Gervais can say it on stage. So that's awesome. That's not like, to me, that's not like, there's no art there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like having, it's uncovering something probably that you haven't thought of yourself. Because as you say, if you would have thought of it yourself, it's not just like seeing someone else.
The feeling might be a feeling you've had.
Yeah.
But the angle in which you're getting out that feeling, the angle in which you're writing about it is not something you're thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just not ever like, yeah, of course. I mean, if that was the case, then we'd all just be comics.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
but do you think it always has to be dark? Like one of your favorite jokes to me is like not your favorite joke. One of your jokes, which is one of my favorites, is about the pigeon males. Like you go back and you say at that time, it's amazing, and you say at that time I'll butcher it again because you get a podcast, and then so he says you say like back in the day, a guy says didn't get the invite, and he said how come I specifically gave it to a bird and told them your address.
That's one of the few jokes of mine. I've like posted online. It never does well. That's one of the few jokes of mine that I actually find funny. Like for me, like doing jokes, like you don't really find them funny anymore. You know what I mean? But or at all. Like I that's the problem with being a comic. It's like I don't really always find myself funny. So it's like I'm just going on everyone else's word. But that joke is the one. The line, one of the few lines that actually does make me laugh is the line about like, pigeons used to deliver the mail, and And occasionally they lose a male, and I looked it up why, and the reason is because they're pigeons. I don't know. I guess
it's a real Norm Macdonald. It's a real Norm Macdonald joke.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald. Yeah, exactly.
Because like the punchline is the premise. Yeah,
exactly. It's like a Norm Macdonald joke. Yeah, maybe that's why I laugh, because I just love Norm Macdonald. It's like a Norm Macdonald joke. But no, not every bit has to be dark. There's different types of comedy for sure. I mean, like, observational comedy isn't like always dark. Yeah, no. I mean, there's all types of comedy. Yeah, there's the relief shit, relieving your like bad impulses, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also a degree, it's like, you know, Brian Regan can have you relieve some of your thoughts. They might not be the darkest thoughts, but it's still a form of relief, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when he goes, like when he's like talking about ballet and he's like, oh yeah, I went to the ballet. Basically, the whole thing is this guy likes this girl and she likes another guy, and then they just dance around for 2 hours. It's like you're still saying like this thought in our heads that like ballet is kind of stupid or like ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
But there's still a relief there, or a release or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not super. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it's always saying something, you know. Yeah, and once again, like the idea that ballet is silly is we all have that, but the way Brian words it is the geniusness of it, right?
Yeah.
That's I guess it's similar to a dark joke. It's soft. It's the execution that gets to a thought that we all have. Like we all kind of know ballet is a little ridiculous, but it's like it's a narrative, but it's not really, and there's just dancing. But the way he gets at it is you don't think he's even trying to make fun of it.
Yeah.
He's just trying to like talk about it. And then by the end of the thing, you're like, oh, he's just totally making fun. You don't even see the with him, he's always brilliant because you never see the critique. It's always because he's such a nice guy. The critique always comes out of the left field. But like it's different than just going up on stage. Like an anti-woke comic. An anti-woke comic's version of that would just be ballet is gay. That's it.
not much for
that
the
being
finesse.
said, woke comics are equally as worthless.
Yeah.
Because they go against the whole idea of laughing about shit that's fucked up. Like they that's like woke comics, like they have people clapping. Like, that's not laughing. Like they have people disagreeing. There's this self-righteousness there that's equally as bad as the like I'm gonna be mean and not write a joke. Real comedy is neither woke nor anti-woke. It has no ideology. It kind of like you know, this breaks free of having an agenda, you know?
Yeah. About I wanna like push a bit about something that you mentioned, and you mentioned a bit about it before as well. That well, you said there's a way to soften the blow and like hide the critique maybe, and can even go for like darker stuff than thinking that ballet is stupid, of course. But then it should also depend. I mean, intuitively, it should also depend on what the group is thinking, or how do you feel? Like you said, Louis wants the crowd to be dark, so you do other people don't see that other people are laughing or something that is less permissible or something like that. Because I want to bring up like an interesting study that could relate here. So what they had is they take students, and students were like the group they were gonna manipulate. So some students were told that the jokes they're about to hear were considered not funny and aversive, and like they bring like they provide a context to make them feel exactly like it's wrong stuff. And then another group, they told them they were rated as funny and not aversive and okay. And then specifically when they showed them disparaging kind of jokes about themselves, about their group, about students, those that were told it's not funny actually rated them as less funny, and those that compared to those that and it didn't occur for like neutral type of jokes. So it's the idea of, I think there's this kind of social bias in the way that how do you think the group thinks about stuff, what is permissible, like in that way, like you need to soften the blow in the way that would be considered okay by the group when you think about your group in a joke.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a balancing act. Yeah, it's definitely like you want to get the group to laugh at something awful, but also with the awareness that there's some still moral considerations, that we're not all just becoming barbarians, you know? That experiment's interesting to me too, because it makes me think of the fact also that like the setting itself is so important. Like, Louis had did an hour after he got whatever canceled. He came back. He did an hour at this club, and someone secretly recorded it, and they posted this bit online about it being really offensive, and in the club when he was doing it, people were laughing. That was like the climate,
Yeah.
But then people are hearing this excerpt during the day under the idea that look how offensive this bit is,
Yeah.
And so suddenly the magic of a dark club where also it made me so angry because I saw comedians share that too. And it's like, well, Louis knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And like he put a bit, whatever the bit was, it was like making fun of like the people who are against school shootings or whatever. He put that bit somewhere strategically in the middle of his hour, you know?
Yeah.
And he put it in a place where he like knew how to like, and now people are just posting this excerpt online that morning, you know what I mean? And people are listening and going, that's horrible, But it's like you're taking it out of the climate.
Yeah.
And you're also, even right then, the order is important. I don't like immediately start doing like my most fucked up jokes,
Right.
but by posting that the next day, you're almost like saying, look how he opened the set, even though that's not how he opened it. So like, anytime people get mad at a comedian or they have like an excerpt, it's always like, kind of like what that experiment is, where you're just telling everyone it's bad and then they're listening, you know what I mean? So it's like, so that plays a huge part. I mean, like, I was so mad that other comedians shared that just because like, as a comedian, like, you're working on bits. You don't need someone to record it and share it online. It's just like, that's not how it works,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a reason for like, for it being, and there's also like very little distance between like a stand-up comedian and his comedy. Like no one would ever like post an actor saying some racist stuff, but like for some,
when they find
in the movie, in the movie.
Oh, you mean in the movie?
Okay.
Doing
I was
the
like,
act.
no, I'm pretty sure if someone had footage of DiCaprio saying the N-word.
Yeah, for sure. In the pool, but if it's in a Tarantino movie,
well, that's
that
why
wouldn't be-
comedians get destroyed, because there's no barrier, and it's like people think that's the person,
Yeah.
It feels like what you raised feels like similar to fake news. Like if you put the right framing, you can, I don't know, show Louis, for example, in your example, in a really bad way. It's only a question of framing, and also probably comes from a place where they want to like have this bias, right? They want to someone is something anti against him, so they build this frame.
Exactly. It's ignoring the delicacy of comedy. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in this situation. I've been in this situation where I'm playing a movie to someone, a comedy that I love, and they're not finding it funny. And then suddenly the movie doesn't seem funny to me.
Yeah.
Just having someone right next to you not laughing, you're like,
Right.
yeah. You're like, does this Albert Brooks movie suck? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like ruined. So like, just like if a comedian's on stage, could be the greatest bit in the world, but if the audience isn't laughing, that bit seems unfunny.
Yeah.
So like, comedy is so fucking delicate, you know, and like, no one ever understands that.
Yeah.
So they never like. I did a show recently, and like, it was like a theater. It was like there was like 175 people, but the place sat like maybe 250. So I wanted everyone to be sat up front, because you need people up. You don't want them in the back. That ruins everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if people are in the back and then I can't hear them laugh, it doesn't give me the confidence to say the bits well. You know what I mean? Like there's a relationship. You laugh, I feel it puts me in the moment to do the next bit well. So it actually makes it a bad show. And I told him, I'm like, you need to see people up front.
Yeah.
Don't just let them sit anywhere. And he's like, well, we don't see people here. And then he said, you'll be fine. And I'm like, but I'm the comedian. You don't do comedy shows here. Like, how are you? The fact that you're telling me you'll be fine when it's what I know, it's like crazy. Like,
it's
comedy is like so like the lack of respect comedians get is just wild.
Yeah. Even in science, we do this. And like part of the reason we do this, it's like I've been in science for like 15 years. And in psychology and cognitive neuroscience, I've seen work about anything, about boredom, about like attention, memory, learning. Very little representation of humor. No courses on humor, no, conferences, very little conferences. Yeah. For some reason, it's a topic that's not very well studied. I mean, it is studied. That's not to say that there's nothing, but like relative to how important it is to our lives. And I think part of the reason is because it's inherently not serious, so people don't take it seriously.
Exactly. They think something's dumb, even though it's not. I mean, like, the idea that people will like call like Naked Gun dumb or any comedy, I'm like, Naked Gun isn't dumb. It's extremely clever to write those jokes. Yeah. Like, the characters in it might be dumb, but the movie's not dumb. Like, the writers aren't dumb. You know what I mean? Like, my theory, I mean, this isn't like, I don't know if it's like a theory, but it's the way I see the narrative I've created is that Aristotle wrote the Poetics on drama. And at the time, I don't think theater was being that. Didn't have the respect it has now. But he academically wrote a book that explained all the fundamentals of drama, you know? 24-hour, revolution of the sun and all in one day, the protagonist, whatever, the hubris or whatever the flaw is. And he also wrote a book about comedy that got lost. And my theory is like, because of that, we don't have that classical, like, embrace academically of comedy because it didn't start from there. While Poetics cemented drama as something really, and maybe comedy. I mean, it's like you said, obviously it doesn't take itself seriously either, but like, just because something doesn't take itself seriously doesn't mean it's not serious. And comedy is the least pretentious art form. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's like a good thing, but it's completely misunderstood, not respected. I was at the Cellar the other day. Madonna went up on stage.
Seriously?
Right? Yeah. She did 40 minutes, and it was terrible.
40 minutes?
And I'm like, I get that she's Madonna, and obviously, like, whatever. She's in her own little universe. Yeah. But that being said, no matter how great of a performer she is, it is extremely arrogant to think you can just go on stage for 40 minutes at the Comedy Cellar and be good. Like
you wouldn't go singing in the Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think the reason also comedy doesn't get respect is I think it takes, and people think I'm being negative when I say this, but I mean this in like in a way, a complimentary way. I think it takes the least amount of natural talent comedy. You don't have to have a good voice. You don't have to have a good ear. You don't have to dance. You don't like you don't have to, have a great eye. It takes the least amount of natural talent, but because of that, it takes the most amount of work. Because like there is no wonderkind, there is no Mozart for stand-up. There is no 13-year-old amazing comedian. It takes so much experience. Yeah. And no rehearsal prepares you. Yeah. So it's like it takes so much life experience and like experience on stage to get good at it, but there's no natural talent. Essentially, the instrument. Well, the reason audiences disrespect it is because they think the instrument is your voice. They're like, "Oh, his instrument's his voice," and then they're like, the audience goes, "Well, we all have voices." So for them, they think the reason audiences heckling all the shit is because when they see a comedian on stage, the voice being the instrument, it's almost as if the comedian on stage has a clarinet and everyone in the audience has their own clarinet. Well, I should play along too, you know what I mean? Yeah. The clarinet being people's voices. Yeah. But the misconception is the instrument is not the comedian's voice. The instrument is the audience. Yeah. Oh. That's what they're playing. They're playing the audience. The audience, nice. The audience is the instrument that they're trying to get a sound out of.
Cool. So I thought it's like a
I thought the comedian's brain is gonna be the instrument.
Like physical versus mental. Like physical, I think it's great mental talent, but like the greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince you it's not that big of a deal, right? That it's easy, like to make it seem natural. I mean, like,
the more colloquial, the more natural it is, the more it seems like you're just talking, the more it seems like they can just talk over it.
Exactly, yeah.
You get punished for your craft. But the audience, I mean, I really think the audience, I mean, the brain is, I mean, I guess the brain is the mechanism for everyone to do what they're doing, but like the audience is the instrument you're making sound out of.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like you're trying to make, trying to make the audience trying to get it to have that same sound over it.
I think that's gonna be the title of this episode.
Yeah,
it's a really good line. I really like it.
Raanan, we're being flagged. We need to wrap up, unfortunately.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
it was so fun talking to you all.
It was. Well, I'd do another hour. But we need to, like, this is university, 5:30. We need to shut down. As a closer, we always, what we do at the end is have our guests recommend something. We recommend a bit just to, like, share comedic bits. If you have a bit which you think is not very well known, that you like, anything you like, that could be great. I'll say I recommend, like, there's this Drew Thomas joke about being...
who joke?
Drew Thomas. Do you know him?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't know.
He has a really cool bit. Like, I found him through this bit on Instagram. He has a really funny bit about being a black person in an elevator and with a white woman. And she clutches her purse and he says, like, it makes me feel a certain kind of way. It makes the whole situation awkward because I'm pulling, she's pulling. It's a cool bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's really
I recommend, I was wondering if I should recommend a specific joke, but I ended up recommending a whole set. It's a whole set, like 10-minute set by Emily Catalano. She's a comedian. I don't know how I found her. She's very good. I really hope we can have her in future episodes.
Yeah, we'll try.
I love her. I see her clips all the time. I think they're so funny. She's
right?
Great. Yeah. Yeah, she's really great. What's the bit? Oh, just the set.
The set from the, I think it's Just for Laugh or Don't Laugh something. She's like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Or maybe, yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, God, yeah, she's awesome. I don't know her, but I just see her clips all the time. I find her so funny. I mean, there's this. I think the thing that makes me laugh more than anything is this Stewart Lee bit. Where it's just so mean, but it's so funny. He kind of plays a snob. He plays like his persona is like a snob. And he has this bit where he's like, apparently James Corden thinks I'm the greatest stand-up of all time. He's always talking about how great I am and how I'm the best thing in comedy. And then he just takes a pause and goes, the feeling is not reciprocated.
That's awesome.
Very mean. It's very good.
But yeah, so but thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks.
I expect to see me in the book you all write in a couple of years.
For sure. We'll have an article and we'll, like, acknowledge all the comedians. You'll be on a scientific paper.
You got to be the next famous Israeli science writer after what's his name? The guy with the pencil, Daniel Dennett. What's his name?
You already forgot his name. I'll be bigger. No one will forget mine.
What's the guy? Pencil.
Yuval Noah Harari.
What?
Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh no, I love him though. He's my idol. I love him. No, I mean the
Kahneman.
Kahneman.
Kahneman. Yeah. Daniel Kahneman.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yuval's the best.
Yeah.
My spiritual guide through all this nightmare. All right, man. Well, it's so great talking to you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it was great talking to you. It was awesome and fascinating, and we really appreciate the high energy at like 9:30 in the morning.
Of course, yeah, let me know when it's out. I'll share it. Yeah.
Thanks. We will. All the best, Raanan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
תל אביב 360, ערוץ הפודקאסטים של אוניברסיטת תל אביב.